Okay, there we go. It's on now. It's on, it's off. I know. You didn't expect that, did you? Yeah. It was funny. I was in my arena one day, and I was calling Troubadour over to me, and I had my speaker on a different part of the arena, and he just kept looking at me, looking at that, couldn't figure out, where he was supposed to go because he hears my voice, but he hears it coming from a different direction.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting.
So he was kind of confused.
Can we turn the volume down some?
Yeah,
I guess
because you're close, yeah.
close, yeah.
Let me turn this off first because if I get too close to it, it's going to squeal.
Bluetooth is waiting for connection. Bluetooth is connected.
Testing. It startled him again. Is that lower? I can't tell because I'm out here.
Lower, it's okay.
Okay. So I'm looking at his hind end, and if he doesn't respond, then I will do something. He's looking at me, he's got an eye on me, he's got an ear on me, but he's not willing to commit. It's just going to be a light touch. I'll do it again. If he doesn't respond. Yes. Yes.
Last weekend after you left and I was in the pasture and I told you I was able to get his halter on, I did that. I kept, he wasn't paying attention. I kept on, kind of looking at his butt and he would turn around and pay attention to me then. So, he was responding.
Good.
Yeah, that's eventually how we got the halter on.
Yeah.
So it works.
Well, the nice thing that I'm seeing with him a little bit too is this little bit of resistance to respond is more his confidence coming out. Instead of being worried, oh, I got to hurry up and respond because I don't want to be in trouble, now he's like, what are you going to do about this? And I kind of like seeing that because it's part of his own personality starting to come out. And I'd rather him be like that than afraid. So I want him to respond with respect without fear. And so he's teetering on both sides right now. Sometimes it's respect, sometimes it's fear, but we're playing with that and he's starting to come out of his shell a little bit. So I like that. Like, see, right now he's going, well, what are you going to do about this? So I'm going to just I get a little sneaky looking, I just kind of hunch over a little bit, and then if he doesn't respond, I do something. And then I look away. And then I'll try, oh, he goes, never mind. So I want it to be where when I look at that hind end, he just moves it away. He says, yes, ma'am. But see, there's no fear there. But I didn't just go, you give it to me and whack. I gave him plenty of time to make a decision, and he was like, well, I'm kind of grazing, so, what are you going to do about it? And I like that. I like that there's less fear there now and a little bit more. So now we work a little bit on respect, but we keep that fine line so that try not to have the fear come in, but try to have the respect there. And that's me taking my time when I ask for things. So if I look at the hind end over here and he doesn't do anything, because if he was in a herd and the alpha said to move, he's not going to go, when I'm done eating, right? So I'm saying, can you? Oh, he says, yes, I can. And as soon as he does, I take my eyes off of him and my body off of him. That's his reward because it's the release that teaches. So if I look at it, he moved his front end, but that's okay. He still came to face me. And then I take the pressure off. And so then he knows for sure that that's the right answer. So I'm going to make it kind of hard for him to eat right now. I'm just going to play with him a little bit. Pique his curiosity. See, that's that little more confident side coming out now, which is really, really nice. Good. Good. And you can see there's no fear there. You know, he didn't get worried about what I had to say. He just goes, oh, I better listen. She's acting like an alpha. And I better pay attention to that because I don't want to get in trouble. Because it was my eyes. My eyes were like the lead mayor saying, you better move that butt. And then my stick and string was the stallion saying, you didn't listen to the mayor. And it makes sense to him. I'm going to move his shoulder. I'm putting a little bit of pressure with my stick. Yes. Good. Move that shoulder. Move that shoulder. Move that hind end. Back up. That was good. There wasn't the head tossing that time. Yes, good. So every time he tries to eat, I'm just distracting him, making it hard. Now he's just kind of starry-eyed for a minute. Now he's blinking a little bit. Nice sigh. So he wasn't full of any negative emotions there because it was kind of it was a little bit of a, but it wasn't a heavy one. There wasn't a lot. That just shows me there wasn't a lot of tension in him, which is good. That's a good way we're starting. So everything we're doing, he's not building up the tension inside him. He's not holding it in. So that's good. So I just take measurement at the beginning. Where are you? Where's your emotions at? Yeah, good. Good.
He's wanting to connect with me. That's good.
Now I'm going to ask him to go on the circle. So I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to point to the right slowly, and then I'm going to slowly lift my stick. There he goes. And he stalled out. I just ask again. Breathe in. Point in that direction. Start lifting my stick. As soon as he starts to go, my stick doesn't come up any further. It just goes back down. So I feel like he was kind of more stopping there, not sure what I actually wanted, if I wanted him to keep going or not. So I just asked a couple times until he could keep going. Now I'll ask for a trot. Breathe in, point. Slowly lift my stick. Swing the ground a couple times softly, because he doesn't need a lot. Doesn't need a lot of pressure. If I whack the ground too hard, it's going to create more emotions in him, and he's going to get worried. I'm going to ask for a faster trot. Yeah, good. If he slows back down, I just ask again. Breathe in, point, slowly lift my stick till I get the speed I want, and then I drop it. So his body is angled towards the outside of the circle, which means his mind is not quite here yet, so we'll play with that a little bit. So now he had tension in him from asking him to circle, but he's letting it out. He's not keeping it in. That's good. And he's licking his lips. So it was me asking him, I think, for a faster trot, because the faster they go, the more they can worry. And even though it's not super fast, I was still asking for more speed. So he just got concerned about it. So I just want him to relax into it. And relaxing into it is showing signs of his head coming down, you know, blinking, rhythm in his gait. Those are things that I'm looking for. Him starting to look towards me instead of away from me. There's a little softer rhythm there. I'm going to ask for a walk just as a reward. See if he'll slow down. I just put the stick and string in front of me and see if that'll slow him down. If not, I can start wiggling the rope. Shorten the circle. Trying to put energy in front of him to slow him down. Slow him down. Yes, good. Good, but keep walking, please. Keep walking. And that was a question in his head. Could you see how he was kind of looking like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do? So at that moment is when I just gently direct him, because I don't want him to feel in trouble. I don't want him to feel like he can't ask questions. I just want to clarify it for him so he knows the answer. And he started to trot again on his own. So that just tells me he's a little concerned and he needs to move his feet. So I'm just going to help him do that there. I'm going to ask for a faster trot. Good. Good. So I'm going to experiment here. What I'm going to do is every time he looks outside the circle, I'm going to start walking towards his hind end. Good. I didn't have to right there because he started to look in. There's a little more rhythm in his gait there. It's slower, but there's at least some rhythm with it. So he kind of looked outside, so I'm going to walk towards his hind end. And if he kind of looks towards me, I'll stop and I'll relax. I want to get him thinking towards me instead of resistant thoughts wanting to be away. Good. Good. He's kind of looking outside. I'm going to walk towards him, towards his hind end. He's looking away. I'm going to walk towards his hind end. I want him to find out what the answer is. He's a little bit more arced towards me. I'll stop. He's looking away. I'm going to walk towards his hind end. He's kind of thinking a little bit more towards me there. Now he's not, so I'm going to walk towards his hind end. It's kind of concerning him a little because he doesn't know what to do with that, but as he experiments and starts thinking towards me, he'll start finding the answer, because right there he's a little bit more angled towards me, so I stopped. It might be hard to see because it's very little right now. He's looking kind of away from me. His head's pointed just a little bit to the outside. His head's pointing just towards me just a tiny bit, but I'm going to reward that. If he wants to walk right now, I'm going to let him. I'm going to change direction, change my tools. Draw him in, push him in that direction. I push by the shoulder. I'm going to see if I can get him to think more towards me instead of away. Because over there, he's thinking away from me. His body's angled to the outside there. So I'm experimenting. I just kind of trotted towards him a couple steps just to see if that will get his attention. Yeah, he looks towards me. I relax. He looks away. I'm going to go towards him. I want him to pick up some speed. Good. I'm just trying to see what can I get him to do to want to interact a little bit more. Yeah. And I know it's hard to see from the outside there.
I can see.
Okay, good. Good. So it was very subtle little changes where he just kind of, instead of kind of looking out that way, he'd just look in a little bit, and then I'd stop and reward. So he starts, because it's that release that teaches. So every time he looks at me, I stop as a reward. So I want him to start being present with me instead of thinking out there. And I can do that now because he's starting to build a little bit more confidence. Because if I would have asked that a few weeks ago, he would have just gone, I'm just too worried now I can't think at all. But as his confidence comes up, I can start asking for more, asking for better behaviors, and him just to respond and look towards me, want to connect with me. So I'm just kind of playing with it, seeing how I can help him. I know you're okay. You're okay. I know. Yeah, you're okay.
He stepped on his lead.
His rope?
Yeah.
I thought it was me throwing the stick down because I didn't have my eyes on him, so I couldn't tell what it was. But
No, it was you throwing the stick down. I was just bringing up that yesterday when we were grazing, he stepped on his lead and he, jumped.
and he panicked. Yeah. So we'll play with that a little bit. So when he feels that pressure, I'm just going to hold it. I'm not going to add more. I'm just going to hold it until he starts thinking about going away from the pressure, which means putting his head down. And he doesn't know what to do with that, so he's just holding on to that. There, he came down just a little bit, so I released. And that time he understood really fast. Good. So when he feels that pressure on the pole, he doesn't know what to do with it. So horse's first instinct is to panic and pull up. So we have to give him a lot of repetition of doing that, holding that pressure there, and him bringing the head down on his own. Because I want to wait till it's his idea to do it, because then he's going to remember it. And then eventually, when he feels that pressure, it'll become his new automatic response will be to give to that pressure instead of pulling on that pressure. Good. So the moment I feel even just a tiny bit, I release. Now he's licking his lips. So he just needs to know how to deal with that pressure. And it's the opposite of what his instincts tell him, which means we have to reprogram that tape in his mind, which means repetition, until this becomes his new thought pattern. Good. Very nice. So we'll work on doing a little bit of that. Good. So his feet were moving there because he got a little bit worried, like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do? So I just pet him. I pet him on the neck, on the shoulder, on the wither, anywhere in that area, and just let him feel that I'm relaxed, you're okay. So if he feels there's no tension in my body when I'm touching him, it's going to help him relax. And there was a nice soft sigh, so he's like, oh, thank God. So what I just wanted to do is I just want to bend his head over. I want him to bend his head over towards his shoulder. Every time he gives me a little bit, I release, and then I ask again. So he doesn't know what to do with that. He thinks he's supposed to move his feet. And we did this a couple times before, but we haven't done a lot of it. There we go. Because when you go out on the trail, that's your emergency brake. And we've talked about that, but it's very important to have that. Good. Thank you. And we need that to become an automatic response as well, so that when he gets worried, instead of bracing and wanting to take off, we bend his neck and then he can't go anywhere except for a small circle. But it's got to be taught into him because it's the opposite of what his instincts tell him to do. Good. 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 So when I'm teaching, I like to have my hand over by his shoulder. And so if he starts to move, I can just move with him and not add any additional pressure. And if he starts to move, I can pet him. And sometimes that helps too. There, good. Good. So those last couple times, I didn't really ask with pressure on the rope for him to bring his head over. He just brought it over. So it's about him feeling that pressure and knowing what to do with it. So that's why he's moving more now, because I'm asking again with the rope. I'm going to pet on the shoulder, see if that'll help him stop his movement, because he doesn't know what to do with this yet. Good. And when his eyes are soft and he's blinking, I release. When he softens up mentally, not just physically, but when he just like, when I see that softness in his eye and his face, that's what I release. Because you don't want to, even if they bend their head, but there's still tension in them, if you release, you're still building that tension into them. So I want to wait for a mental and emotional relaxation in him. And then I release, and so then he starts knowing, okay, if I get worried and I get bent to a stop, my job is to relax, not to keep the tension in. Good. And whatever we do on one side, we do on the other side. Good. So I like to slide my hand down so he feels me coming. I slowly close my fingers. There he gave. I released. That was a big give. So I gave a big. If it's just a little bit of a give, then I give a little release. So I'm going to slide down. Good. Good. So he's not blinking right here. I'm just going to wait. Now he's blinking, I'll release. And now he licks his lips. When he licks right away, that means he understood right away. Good. Good. So can I touch him at the back of his rib cage and have him move his hind end? Yes. Can he come off of pressure? So I touch really lightly the hair. And if he doesn't respond, then I turn it into a tapping motion. But I give a couple seconds. So I'll touch. First I'm going to pet. Then I'm going to touch for a couple seconds. And then I'm going to tap until he responds. There. Pet. Touch. He doesn't know what to do with it. There we go. As soon as I get a foot going sideways, because when you're riding, this is kind of the area. I mean, your foot's not going to go back that far, but this is, if you want the horse to move his hind end when you're riding, then you're going to bring your leg back a little bit. So if we teach all this stuff on the ground, when you get on, everything makes sense to them. And if I want to move his front end and I'm riding, I'm going to do it just behind the shoulder. I'm going to touch, release, touch, release. But when I do that, when I'm moving the front end, I want to make sure I'm in front of the shoulder and my body is pointed where I want his feet to go. So my belly button is pointed right where I want his foot to land over there. Good. So then when you get on and you start leg cueing your horse, it all makes sense. Good. And when I'm asking the hind end to move, it helps at the beginning to bend the head a little bit so it gives him an idea of which direction to go. Eventually, I won't need to bend the head, and he'll understand it. But if he needs a little extra assistance, I'll bend the head a little bit, which helps him move the body in the opposite direction. Yeah. Good. So that was backwards. It wasn't to the side. I'm going to wait. So I didn't add additional pressure with rhythm there because he was moving it backwards. He just hadn't found the answer yet. Kind of a judgment call. And I felt like he was just trying to find the answer, so I just held it there until he found the answer, then I released. So I'm going to try the over on the other side. So every time he moves, I take the pressure off. See, I take my finger off, and then I ask again. Take my finger off, ask again. So here, when I'm asking the back end to move, I'm behind the shoulder. When I'm asking the front end to move, I'm in front of the shoulder. Because everything behind the shoulder pushes them either forward or moves the hind end away. It makes sense to them. They understand that. And if I'm in front of the shoulder, it's either going to push them backwards or to the side. So I'm going to ask the front end to move. There we go. Good. I release, ask, release, ask. Good. Very good. Very good. So before I ever ride a horse, I have the horse understand all the cues from the ground. So that when I get on, they go, okay, I understand what that means. And then there's not confusion because of the reins and the leg, and sometimes we're out of position, and they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, good. So see how I want to repeat this every time because still that worry comes up like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So I make sure that my body's very relaxed. I'm not staring at him. I want him to know the difference between when I ask for something and when I don't ask for something. When I don't ask for anything, I'm very relaxed. My shoulders are relaxed. My eyes, I'm looking more down because I don't want to project any energy towards him. And I'm just very soft. I use rhythm with my stick and string. And I glance up once in a while to see what his facial expressions are saying. He's blinking. There's a sigh. I'll back off for a minute. So I'm rewarding the emotional state there of him relaxing. There we go. Good. Go around his legs. I want to be able to move it all over the place and him to not worry unless I'm projecting energy towards him, telling him to do something. Eventually, I want to be able to tap the ground really hard with him with the stick and string and him to not even have a concern about it at all. But you got to start at the beginning. You got to start light. And just keep adding. So he's not blinking a whole lot right now. His head's a little bit high, not real high, but a little bit high above the withers. He pointed his ears forward, looking at something else, licking his lips. I'll quit. So that was really good. That's a big improvement. So now I'll try this side. Because quite often a horse will be more reactionary on one side than the other side. So he's not really blinking again. So I'm just going to continue with rhythm until there's some relaxation. He's looking away, which means something else is a little more interesting, which is good. Yeah. So he's not really blinking again, so I'm just waiting on him. There, he's blinking. Hi. Hi. So now I'm going to do it with the rope again. And see how we have to keep using this repetition, but every time it's less. Every week he gets over it faster. So as long as he's progressing, that's what I care about. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good boy. Very soft licks right now. That's good. He's looking at me. He's giving me 2 ears. Yeah. I like that it misses sometimes because I want him to be okay with all of that. Yeah. I like when it gets in between the ears because you get to see how he feels about having his ears touched. So now I'm going to try to do this from the side. Good. Good. But there's not relaxation yet, so I'm still waiting. Yeah. Oh, there's the licking. Good. See how he's starting to be able to handle more and more? Yeah. Good. I'm not as handy on this side. So he's not, oh, there we go. There's some blinking. That was good. So we did a few things with him standing still, so I'm going to have him move his feet again. Good. See how he's getting calmer about things, though? It's not as much of a big deal. It is for a moment, but then he gets over it. Hi. Yeah. Good. So I'm going to let him stay at a trot for a couple minutes and do a couple changes of direction before I ask for a walk. Because then I'm more likely to get it because he's used up a little bit of that energy, that anxiety that he has. I'm going to back up. He got a little worried. That's okay. I just ask again. Good. And he was able to maintain gait. That was really nice. So sometimes he just has that tendency, like when I was going to ask him to change direction, to worry first. He goes, oh my God, what do you want? What do you want? So if I just take my time directing him, then he just, like afterwards, he sneezed. So he goes, oh, okay, that's all you wanted. Just, so I got to always check on his emotions there and just be ready to just help him, guide him to the right answer. So I'll have him pass my right shoulder, change my tools. Good. So he's doing better at maintaining the gait with the change of direction, so that's really nice. So he had trouble changing in the other direction just because he got worried, so let's just check him. See how he is? It's okay. It's okay. I'll just ask again. Yeah. Good. So he never gets in trouble. I just redirect until he can do it. Good. Because if he were to feel like he was in trouble, he wouldn't be able to think. His brain would just shut out. Good. 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 So see how I'm just going to continue until he can do it. Yeah. Change my tools, change direction. I'm just going to keep backing up in a circle until he can do it. Until he can do it. There we go. See how I just helped him that way? Instead of getting bad and saying, you need to change direction. Wish you would have just put him on the defense. Instead, I just wait for his brain to kick in and for him to find the answer. So I'll start with a backup, and if I need to spiral, I will. It's okay, it's okay. He goes, where'd that wall come from? But each time he lives through it, he realizes nothing bad happened, and then pretty soon, it'll get better. Yeah. So there, after he changed, I just asked him to pick up a little bit more speed. Change my tools. Spiral. I know. That was a softer sneeze. That was good. Ask for a little more speed. You're okay. You just got to watch your footing. Better. Since it's better, instead of stopping him this time, I'm just going to let him relax on the circle a little bit. Without asking for anything. Because I also want him to be able to bring his emotions down in motion. Like right now, he's got more rhythm in his step. He had dropped his head a little bit. I'm going to ask for a change of direction. So So I just kept my stick up there until I got the speed of the trot that I wanted. Change my tools, back up. And relax in motion. And watch where your feet are. I want a little bit more speed. Good. Change my tools in my hand. He's licking his lips. That's good. Now I'm going to let it, his head dropped right there. I'm going to let him stop now. Good. See if he'll walk. Walk. Yes. Look at the hind end, have him move it away. I'm still talking to it, thank you. Right there, good. Good. So you can see how everything we do just needs repetition, repetition, repetition. And just looking for subtle changes of improvement. So that side's still just a little bit hard, but it still got better. He wasn't being reactionary. It just took him a little bit of time to change from the left to the right. But the reactionary part got a lot better. And he was maintaining gait. Yeah, good boy. So because his head came up when I started going up the first time, I didn't go up any further than that. Good. So now I'm trying to go on his back. So I let him tell me what he can handle. If his head comes up, he starts getting worried, I back off. But he's not. He's a little starry-eyed, but he's not overreacting. So I'm just going to do that with rhythm till there's the lick. Good. Good. That was very good. You're so brave. He put his head on that side, not giving me permission, so I stopped until he lets me over here. So I'm always telling him, I hear you, I see you, I see your concerns. So when he put his head over, I stopped over there. I kept moving the ball, but I stopped getting closer, or I stopped trying to get on the side because he goes, I'm a little concerned. I said, I see that. I stayed still, and then because I saw it, he let me. That was good. So I watched his expression before I did that. And then there's always a chance he can move forward after I do that, but he wasn't showing a big concern, so I just continued. Yeah. But see, I wanted to do both sides before I put it all the way over him. So he could see it on both sides again this week before I did that. So that I'm not surprising him. His head came up, so I just stay where I'm at until he relaxes a little bit. He's not blinking. Of course, he's looking forward at something, which means, good. Good job, buddy. That was good. You're getting to be so brave. Yeah, you can have a carrot. That was very good. I know. Good. Good. So I just want to repeat each side just to make sure that he stays okay. Good. Good. So I stop because he licked, then I can repeat again. Yeah. He rose his head, or his head came up higher, so I didn't go over that time. Good. These are things I do before I ever even ride a horse because I don't want my leg going over a horse to be the first thing he ever sees that goes over him. Good job.
I didn't think about that. That's probably a good idea. That's a
Yeah.
technique.
Well, and then I'm up and down on him a lot and swinging my legs from side to side. And then I'll have my legs over his hind end. So I'll be, straight on him, but I'll have my legs crossed. So if he spooks, I can slide down one way or another and not get stuck. And so I get him used to just seeing things on both sides, coming on, going off, coming on, going off. But I start with obstacles like balls first. And, build to them being able to see me on both sides because I'll lean over them and rub them and just do all kinds of stuff to get them just used to me. So by the time I get on to ride, they're like, it's about time. But it beats getting bronked off, If we do things in a manner like that, it's like training just becomes, a confidence builder for them. And for us too, because we feel safer because we've already tried so many different things and the horses live through it. And then when I have either a bareback pad or a saddle on them, I'll hang things from the both sides of the saddle. It could be those noodles you use in the pool. It could be like those, for boats, those white things that hang off the side. All kinds of different things. I start with light stuff and work my way up, but just let them start feeling things so that, my legs, doing some motion on them isn't a big deal because they're used to it. I know, what a good boy. What a good boy. Yeah, what a good boy. I love how attentive he is again already. Put a little commotion back here. I want to trot. Yeah, good. I'm going to see if I can get a couple of walk trot transitions. He just did it there on his own. But I would like to be able to ask for it and get it. I want him to start seeing my stick and string and realizing when that's in front of him, he can slow down. Yeah. And then I have to make sure my energy is very relaxed when he goes down to a walk so that he doesn't think he's supposed to be trotting. But eventually I'll just be able to point the stick up a little bit and he'll slow down. But he doesn't have the idea yet. I'm going to ask for a trot, breathe in, point, lift my stick, drop my hand in the stick when he starts trotting, remind him of his job. It's funny how they always like to do stuff behind you.
Yeah.
So I'm just ready. If he breaks gait, I don't have to move my body. I just flick my stick back and string back there. So I'm going to lift my stick up in front of him. Bring him in a little closer. He doesn't know what to do with that. I'm going to wiggle the rope a little bit. Create commotion until he walks. There we go. It's just getting him to understand the idea. He doesn't know what that means yet. So when I ask him to go through a higher gait, I want to wait. If he's going to the left, I want to wait till he passes my left shoulder, because then I can drive him forward because I'm behind him. Then I ask, and when I try to slow him down, I wait until he passes my right shoulder, and then I'll put energy in front of him. So it makes sense. So if I come out here in front of him, soon he'll start to realize what that means. Yes. So now he's starting to understand. You got to keep going though, buddy. And he just wasn't sure. So I wait till he passes my left shoulder so I'm behind him and I can ask him forward. Yes. But see how I just gently remind him so that I don't get him emotional. So now I'll put some energy in front of him again. See about slowing him down. Slow down. Yes. So I would like to do one more time on this direction so I get 3 to see if he really understood. Because he's trying to understand the pattern. So I'll ask for a trot. Yeah. And I don't care that it's a slow trot right now because we're not working on the speed of the trot. We're just working on maintaining whatever gait I put him in because we're working on just doing transitions right now. So I have to pick and choose my battles. Because we have a choice. I'm going to ask him to walk. Okay, he thought it was a change of direction. I don't want him to feel wrong, so I'm just going to redirect him back over here. And ask again. See, he released a lot there because I didn't get him in trouble. Because he's like, uh-oh, am I going to get in trouble? I had the stick out there in front, so I can't. I had it up, and he walked. And so I wasn't actually asking yet, but I was. Because I wasn't paying enough attention. So I could ask, when I'm working with a horse, I can either I have to ask for one thing at a time. Speed, accuracy, distance, which is how far I want him to go, lightness, or expression. So when we were trotting the first time, I was working on speed, having to maintain a higher speed of gait at the trot. Right now, I'm trying to teach him to do transitions. So I'm working kind of on lightness. I'm just putting that stick in front and seeing if he can understand what that means. So I'm not working on speed. I can't work on two things at the same time because it's too much for the horse. So it's spelled out saddle, S-A-D-L-E. Speed, accuracy, distance, lightness, or expression. So I work on one at a time. Trot. Thank you. There we go. I know. Oh, I love that expression. Thank you. I'm going to ask for him to walk. I'm going to exhale, put commotion in front. Take more slack out of the rope. Hey, hey. Wiggle the rope a little bit. Yes. So because the third one wasn't better, I gotta do another one because I don't want to end on a confusing note. I know you're doing so good. Trot.
He used to slow to a walk on, when I would say walk on this. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know, you could try that.
Trot. Walk. Walk. Because I want him tuned in to my body and what I'm telling him because he wants to just kind of like tune out on it. I know you're a good boy. Yes, you are. You know we have to do the other direction though, right? Good.
He's very attentive to you.
Yes. And nice looking there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go that way. You don't need to be emotional. Trot. Yeah. Good. And he's licking his lips again right away. That's good. I'm going to ask for him to slow down. Walk. Yes. Yes. So that was all just, can you tell how that was just confusion? He just wasn't sure what the answer was?
Yeah.
Yes. But I want him to find the answer. So I have to just redirect as gently as I can so that he can find the answer. So, because if he finds the answer himself, it's going to be more meaningful. Walk, walk. Walk. Yes. Good. So when he thought about stopping or turning, I just blocked that door. Just that door is not open. I mean, because he's trying his heart out. Trot. Good. Walk. Trot. And it's easier for me to work on the walk-trot transitions right now after he's done the change of direction and I asked for a higher trot or a faster trot because he's a little more tired now, so it's easier to ask for this later in the session than it is earlier in the session when he's got more energy and he goes, I just want to go and I don't want to pay attention and I'm worried. I'd rather ask now. So I don't feel like I really had clarity there, so I'm going to ask again. Good. Good. I'm exhaling, putting energy in front of him till I can find the answer. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I do my best to try to keep his mind in the game. And I do that by being very clear, using my phases slowly so he has time to think and get the right answer. If I do things too abrupt, his mind will leave me. He'll just get worried and his mind will leave. And I don't want that to happen. Walk. Walk. Yes. And watch where you put your feet. Okay, I'm going to let him stop there. It was a little bit better. Just looking for improvement. Yeah. Very good. You're so smart. You even let a ball go over your back. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. And I love that attention again. Because I do everything slowly and methodically like that, he's been able to keep his brain in the game, and he feels comfortable being with me because I'm not going to push him past what he can handle, and he's feeling that. So he wants to connect with me because I feel like a leader to him. Good job. So do you feel like do you see how he grows every week? And this is the look I want before I get on a horse. This tells me he's mentally, emotionally, and physically with me. And that's what I want. So before I get on a horse, that's what I look for. So right now he looks rideable. You can see how he wants to be partnered with me. Oh, you're such a good boy.
He is. He's connected.
Yeah. Because you could tell he's alert, but his mind is with me. He's connected to me. He's responsive to my requests. He gives me 2 ears. And he feels like he's feeling safe. Very soft sigh there. Good job, buddy. Yeah. So I think that was really, really, really good.